So Shark Tank star and Kevin O'Leary is here now, and I'm sure he has an opinion on the House Speaker's vote and how it's unfolding. What do you think this means for the Trump agenda?
It'd be way better if it's one single vote that clears this up, just in terms of keeping the momentum that the Trump agenda has. I mean, you don't want this drama pre-inauguration, so unnecessary. And Johnson's pretty good. I mean, 99% of those working with him like this guy. So it'd be much, much better. Now, look, there's always drama in Washington. That's what makes it so entertaining. If you're a policy junkie like me, and I'm glued to the screen just like everybody else that's interested in this. But this is not where you want to put your energy and your political capital. There's so many agenda items that face this administration right out of the gate. Everybody should be focused on those.
And we are watching this, with a nail-biting sort of suspense to it. I want to switch gears quickly as we look at this. You saw that President Biden had blocked the merger between Nippon Steel and U.S. Steel, and he said, quote, as a committee of national security and trade experts across the executive branch determined this acquisition would place one of America's largest steel producers under foreign control and create risk for our national security and our critical supply chains. Japan's an ally. Is there still a national security concern here, you think?
No, this is a mistake. Let me explain why. You want to make America the #1 destination for capital all around the world, and you want to grow that, and you want them to bring their dollars and build plant and equipment in the United States because it's the most competitive and largest economy. You do not want to mess with that. This is messing with that. This is a government picking winners and losers, one specific company over another. Nippon already said they'd invest $14–15 billion, leave the plant, upgrade it, enhance the job situation, make sure the steel minimums are provided for, and that's what you want. And I hope that actually Trump overturns this, because remember, he just shook hands on $100 billion just 10 days ago from SoftBank. That's money coming in. The #1 export of the United States is not steel, it's the American dream. You should always want your money here first. That's the whole idea. This is counter to that. I don't like it. I hope it gets overturned. It's a bad message.
Well, Kevin, the president of the United Steelworkers Union says, the quote, the USW welcomes President Biden's decision to block the U.S. Steel Nippon deal, and we have no doubt that it's the right move for our members and our national security. Now, the president-elect Trump says that he will use tariffs to keep the steel business operating in the U.S. He also supported not having this deal go through. Will that be enough, do you think, tariffs to avoid layoffs and keep the business going, given China dumping steel on the global market to run competition out of business?
Yeah, I don't like the Chinese government, and I'm a hawk on that, and I'm an advocate for massive tariffs as a negotiating tool. And there's a whole bunch of reasons in a whole bunch of sectors. I'm concerned about the Chinese in a million different ways. Nothing reciprocal. We don't have any agreements with them that make sense, and they use our systems. TikTok's a good example of what's going on right now, the drama unfolding there. I just think at the end of the day, the #1 job of the president of the United States is to make America the #1 destination for capital. You never want to change that. There's a reason it's the #1 economy on earth. There's a reason people drown under barbed wire trying to get into the country. There's a reason most of the money around the world is invested in the U.S. now. You never want to change that. And I know we're focused on one case on the steel deal, but Trump is going to use tariffs for negotiations. He doesn't want to change the momentum of the economy. It's doing fine, and it could even do better.
So I want to ask you about this. I want to turn to TikTok. You mentioned it. Now, President-elect Trump posted on Truth Social today, why would I want to get rid of TikTok? And then he showed his engagements, where he had 8 times the engagements that he had on Instagram and other positive facts in that. So the president-elect is saying basically that the Chinese company TikTok boosted his engagements, so all other Americans should ignore the Chinese Communist Party stealing data and possibly feeding Americans disruptive content through the algorithm. What do you make of that?
So let's break that down a little bit. This situation that we have right now is going to come to a head on January 10th. You're aware that I'm one of the syndicates that wants to buy TikTok. It's already been deemed by a bipartisan Congress through an order that says this is Chinese spyware and we're going to shut it down midnight, January 19th. Really interesting timing, inauguration, everything else. So this actually sits, if the justices push it back, it's going to the executive. The executive right now is Biden. Now, what's going to happen here? We don't have to shut TikTok down. It just has to change ownership to abide by American laws as deemed by the order of Congress. I'm giving you these technical details because I'm going to walk you through the timing of what's going to occur. My guess is justice does not want to mess with the will of Congress. They'll push it back to the executive, and then Biden will open the door and say, is anybody here willing to buy this under terms that really fit the order? In other words, maybe rewriting the algorithm, making sure DOD, Department of Defense, approves it, and all the rest of that. You know, there's been many voices on this thing. I intend to be there with an LOI that Biden can look at and say, this is a viable alternative. I'm going to stay this situation for 90 days to let the company engage with this buyer. That's what's going to happen. Now, I don't see President Trump, I understand what he's doing, but he'll have a big say in the deal after the 90 days because he'll be the President of the United States. And I will anticipate I'll need his signature as well on the outcome of what we're going to bring to the market, that it's compliant. But this company is living in a dreamland thinking the Supreme Court of the United States is going to uphold spyware against its American people. Ain't going to happen. And then you've got this timing situation.
Well, do you really believe then that this can change hands that quickly? Do you believe that you are in the right position to take this?
Yes, I do believe it can change hands quickly, and I'm in a really interesting All of that business, all of that revenue TikTok has, comes from what I call the shark tankers, companies from 2 to 5 million in sales, 2 generations of shark tankers that have used it for customer acquisition in the same way that President Trump detailed how effective it is. My job is going to be how to figure out to keep them on board during the transition period. We may take 3, 4, 5 months to rewrite the code. And the way to do that is to make them my partners, to allow them to invest beside me at the same price that I am investing at, and get 5, 6, 7 million of them on board. And we go through the journey together. Supreme Court is going to turn this down. Watch it happen.
Yeah, we got to go on this. Thank you I appreciate the debate on all of it, and we're watching it as you are. We'll certainly talk to you about this again.